Do you have the gift of gab and like talking about interesting topics? Are you often called opinionated by your friends and family? Then come to Anchor where you can be all of the above and get paid for it. Along with being one of the easiest systems to create contact with, Anchor supplies everything you need and can be used from your smartphone or computer. They even distribute your content for you so that you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Just download the Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Okay, so hello, Internet family. This is Anjanette Potter, and you are listening to 28 Days of Black Feminism. So we are nearing the end of Black History Month, and I have to say, to me, this has been one of the better Black History Months. And it's been one of the better ones because we're not just giving homage to celebrated figures within the world of Black history, which is always good. It's always good to know someone's story, because you may find that I don't agree with not meeting and not knowing your heroes. That was more or less, somebody may have said that because they met their hero and their hero turned out to have feet of clay. And unfortunately, that happens many times. However, there have been famous examples of people meeting their heroes. And you may find out that you have more in common than what you think. You may find out that their story is very similar to yours. Who knows what you find out? One thing you do get a chance to do is shatter your illusions, and you find out the real them, and the real them may be even better than the person that you imagined them to be. I think a lot of that also is on a whole lot of old Hollywood stereotypes of famous people. You know, the whole diva, especially with the whole diva thing and Devo. The person may not be as nice as you think they are. They could even be nicer. So I'm not going to frown on that. One thing you get a chance to do if you meet them for real is you get to see who the for real them is. I have had the pleasure, since social media has been a thing, to at least have a couple of short Twitter conversations with people who I've considered to be heroes and have admired. And I could name drop. I won't. Maybe I will. But it's always beautiful to be able, well, I will say one. I remember one night being up, and Betty Wright, famous singer Betty Wright, R&B singer Betty Wright, y'all know her for her song, her treatise on the cleanup woman, and how to keep her from stealing your man. So, and the warnings about her. So, I did not know Miss Wright was not that much older than me, because I grew up on Miss Wright's music. I never knew she was that young when she was out here singing all this stuff. So, I remember Miss Wright from the days where, you know, my mother and different ones, my uncles, were playing her music. And so, before she passed, I don't even think it was maybe a week or two before she passed, I got a chance to, she was on and she was kind of going back and forth, not in a bad way, but just, you know, discussion with, you know, the fan base and everything. One thing as an artist I see is that Twitter is what you make it. Social media is what you make it. It can be a way of connecting with people you've always admired. It can be a way of getting feedback in real time from your fans. So it's a, you know, one hand washes the other. So I got a chance to get on there, and I got a chance to let her know how much her music meant to me. I'm like, your music was kind of the soundtrack for my childhood, because I grew up, my mother played your records and had your albums. My uncles played your records. Clean Up Woman was a big, major part of my childhood. So it was, a soundtrack. And who would know that maybe like a week or two later she wouldn't be with us anymore? So that's why, as far as church folk go, I'm not going to stop following people's pages or whatever. I think it's ridiculous. Everybody has somebody that they admire. Everyone has people they're fans of. And many times, fandom doesn't always lead to stalking and murdering people, and that's the worst end of it. The biggest end of fandom is the people that you're, the people that you admire give you the power. Think about all the black female journalists that are in the world now because of Oprah. And think about the fact that I don't know who Oprah looked up to before there was her. But the people that we admire, especially, representation is everything. Like when you had the ability, that's one of the reasons why black people clamor so much for white media outlets. Like, where are the black folks? We ask because, that representation is important. Very important. Because if you don't know that we exist, I remember there were the septuplets from the 90s. I can't remember whatever happened to them, but they found out that the two women that helped them come into this world were black doctors. I'm like, and at the time you used to hear a whole lot of people like, I don't want to be your kid's role model, and I can understand that because that's a lot of pressure, because it takes away from your humanness, whatever. But one of the things I said was, it's not so much wanting you to be my kid's role model, but your face being up there. If you're, I just recently watched Whoopi Goldberg's One Woman Show. So for those of you who may not know, Whoopi that we know from and I'm going to do a thing on the whole Whoopi controversy. But for those of you who don't know, the nation kind of fell in. Most people think of Whoopi Goldberg as Celie from Color Purple, but Whoopi was much more than that. Whoopi made, the first time I saw Whoopi was not Color Purple. The first time I saw Whoopi was, Essence magazine kind of really, really hyped up her One Woman Show. So when HBO got the One Woman Show, I was ecstatic. I mean, I finally get to see her perform. Oh, it was the stuff of dreams. Like, me and my friends fell in love with Whoopi from that moment, because it was just like she had us laughing our butts off. Okay? I mean, she really did. Like, each one of the characters that she did, oh my God. And you resonate because people like them. But the one that really stuck out to me this time watching it was the little black girl with the long blonde flowing hair. And so the reason that resonated is because I can remember when me and my cousins used to play house, and we would tie bandanas around our heads to represent long flowing hair. And so when I see the natural hair movement that we birthed, I call it Black is Beautiful Part 2, 2.0, because it was a revisiting of the Black is Beautiful movement of the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. It means something to me, because only in a country where racism is really a thing is the way that you wear your hair a political statement. And so when I saw it this time, it really made me think, and it really made me think of the amount of black men. I had to leave a church because of all that nonsense. Okay, and when I say all that nonsense, I'm talking about black men needing black women to wear their hair like white women, Never mind, all white women don't have long, straight hair. All white women don't look like Marsha Brady. All white women don't look the same. So white women are already battling self-image issues because of, trying to meet beauty standards that they really don't meet at all, not even biologically. But then couple that with race. And so if you get a chance to get on YouTube and search her one woman show and watch it, it's very life changing. Like, now seeing it really took me back in time. And if people can say, well, gosh, you guys wanted to look white. It wasn't that they wanted to look white. It was that there wasn't very many. Like, I thank God for the Amans. I thank God for Beverly Johnson, different other supermodels at that time, black supermodels that made us. But you have to understand, when I talk about certain people making me feel good about being female and being black, and then I'm going to add to that, making me feel good about being female and being black, but also making me feel good about not being lighter than a paper bag. Okay? That beauty comes in all shades and all types of ways in our community. That we're not basing our issues of femininity. So Adam's Rib Media Ministry is not going anywhere. When I look and I see some of these people on the internet that don't know how to behave, I'm like, yeah, we need some of us old heads to hang around, because some of y'all is giving some advice that is just plain up stupid. Okay. Especially some of these young men, it's like, you have to be able to roll with the wisdom of the elders. And so, hanging out, staying around. So I'm a fan. One of the reasons why in the midst of all of this warfare, I came up with an idea for yet another blog. So my new blog is, I'm going to discuss it at length on tomorrow morning's Friday morning live. But it's called The Talking Cure. And it's about all things pertaining to mental health. So like I said, each of my blogs, I recognize that many people don't think that you could do what I'm doing and touch on all these. Well, you're wearing all these different hats. Well, these are not just me wearing different hats. These are different things that I'm passionate about. So I'm staying in music ministry. I plan to do some serious deep diving within the next month or so, as far as prayer, because I really want to eventually get these blogs into. I plan on them being being entities of their own, but I also plan on them being reflective of ministry. I don't think that born-again Christians recognize that we're called, the Word of God says that we're called to be salt and light. Salt, if you don't know, light chases darkness away, but salt also affects the flavor of food. It has curing and healing powers. We have all of this. I keep asking, what do you think the word of the Lord is concerning this pandemic? Why is it that when we get vaccines and everything, this sucker regroups and becomes a stronger strain? Now, one of the things that is kind of keeping us from completely dying, and the number of people, even in the famous world, that have died as a result of Queen Elizabeth is still with us mercifully. But they're saying that, she tested positive now. I worry about her age, but at the same time, because she is a royal and because she is in the position that she's in, she's also able to afford really, really excellent medical care. So I see several different messages here. Number one, about the healthcare system and how it could use a major overhaul. Also, the way we do sick leave, especially for some of our, especially for people who have to work with the public. Pay, so many different, the ability to work from home for many people. So many different issues have popped up as a result of this pandemic. And like I said, I've had my own personal battles with a former denomination. And that brings me to the subject of the first, one of the notables that I want to talk about right now. So one of the feminists that I want to celebrate, and some of the people that you're going to hear me celebrate may not have publicly said they were feminists or identified as feminists, but one of the reasons why I want to talk about not just people who started the trend, but also, to let you know that there are people, they still in the fight. We still have the new faces of feminism. And what that means for us, especially as black women. Because many times we hear from black men that feminism, that's a white woman's battle, and that's for white women, and this, that, and the other. But the reason why I do 28, 29 days of black feminism every year is to let it be known that black women that we are represented in the realm of the fight for equal rights. Especially, and many of them, you would say, some of the people that you name are civil rights people. They were civil rights people, but they are also very integral in the fight for female rights as well. Because many times when you're talking about civil rights, people have a tendency to lump black, not make the distinction between black males and females, not realizing that black women are also fighting a fight. That's where the term intersectionality comes in, and I'm going to revisit that within these next few days and talk about it even more in March. So in March, and both months are fun for me. I recognize that this is my own platform, so I can orchestrate it however I want. So for February, I do black feminism, but then for March, I do global feminism, which is what I'm going to do. The book for Bookworms, Book of the Month, is going to be Reclaiming Our Space by Feminista Jones. Now, once again, an example of why I don't believe that you should feel bad about following your heroes. Or I've been favored, since social media has been a thing, I've been favored to be able to meet and talk to some authors, because I'm a big bookworm, that I like. I've had, the real short, like I said, those short Twitter conversations where you say a few things to each other and both of you meander on to your own space. So I follow Miss Jones on Instagram, and I've had a chance to kind of have some positive back and forth, and some back and forth that we didn't see eye to eye on a topic. So I am going to be. That's going to be the book of the month, and I'm going to post it over the weekend sometime, in time for March 1st. So today's posting. Lord, trying to pull up my notes here. So today's posting is going to be about Anita Hill. Now, I chose Anita Hill today because some of the stuff I'm going through tells me one of the things that if I were going to say anything, so on my YouTube, I've been seeing, TikTok postings, because, TikTok is the latest thing in social media now. People are posting, how they're getting, especially during the pandemic. So, there have been several postings about women who are in their, one was, if you're 40 and up, what advice do you have for 30-year-olds? And different women that looked like they were my age group giving advice. So if I were going to give advice to younger women, the number one thing I would say is invest in yourself. If you have something, if you have a career path that you are passionate about, take the classes, get the degree. Don't let anybody tell you that you're hampering your chances at getting married by not getting the degree. Get the degree. Get the degree. If it's a license you got to have, obtain the additional credits to get the license. I sacrificed my junior and senior year of high school to take cosmetology at the high school level. Number one, it saved my mother tuition on having to go to beauty school. It saved us in a whole lot of ways. And I think my state board kit was even cheaper and everything. It just saved me a lot of money and expense, that can go towards something else. I graduated high school right before going to state board. I went to state board and passed the first time, basically with flying colors. I have my own testimony in the world of cosmetology, but yeah, I came out right out of high school, went right into the field of cosmetology. I got my first job on my 19th birthday. And I did hair, and even within the realm of my first career, I wish I would have took more chances earlier on, especially before I had children, because once you have kids, it was very hard for me to do the type of things I wanted to do, because I was so worried about putting food on the table, keeping a roof over our heads, and making sure that they had a childhood that they could enjoy and everything. But I have no regrets about doing hair as my first. And it's funny, the type of stereotypes that are around about the field of cosmetology and everything. And I'm just like, most of what I learned about professionalism, I learned very young by being a cosmetologist. So if I could say anything to young women, invest in yourself. If you already know what you want to do, go for that degree. Travel. If you have vacation goals, save up your money. This is going to sound like a commercial. Download the Choice app so you could save on hotel stays. You can do it and be affordable doing it, but travel while you're young. If you don't have any children, and if you do have children, let's say you had a baby in high school, you were one of these quote awful teenage girls that got pregnant as a teen. That's all the more reason for you to not give up on your goals, because you have somebody depending on you. Get the support where you can in your county. They have affordable daycare options. Ask about it if you are getting any type of assistance at all. Ask about everything that is available to you. I took advantage of Title 20. Title 20 is a program through Human Services that makes daycare affordable to low-income mothers. Do what you can to make your life easier. Don't care what nobody has to say. If you need to get on Section 8, do what you have to do, because you are taking care of the next generation. Some of these people that are upset about the system are low-key human traffickers. Yeah, I said it. So don't listen to these mugs that are, well, you're letting the system take the place of a man. Well, it's easy to say that, but what if you haven't found a man yet? What if you haven't found somebody to marry yet? Some of these mugs is on, their own agenda. Okay, and part of that agenda is to try to bring you in and make your life hell. Okay, when you hear some of this stuff, some of this rhetoric, some of these guys are talking, run. Don't be afraid to run. Be so in love with your goals, your career goals, your ministry goals. If you feel like you're called to ministry, take those theology classes. If you find that you're in a denomination that really, really opposes women being in the ministry to the point of abuse, leave. I know that's hard to do, especially if it's a religious tradition that you've been a part of all your life. You may not have ever known that they oppose women ministers until you felt called to be one. But if you feel called to ministry, take the classes. Pray about it. And then honor God with that call. Do it for us old heads that may have had to have that fight before you, but also do it for the new heads. Representation is everything, even amongst women in leadership in church. We need to see more women being called and honoring their call. Don't let patriarchy, don't let misogyny in the church, and it is there, be the thing that keeps you out of a God-given goal. Be so in love with your goals because, and the reason, and many of y'all may have even heard this from your own mothers and different other people, because no matter where you go, there's some male chauvinistic, misogynistic demon waiting to try to squash you out. So you have to be careful. So Miss Hill, I'm going to talk about Miss Hill. I just recently, as I was gathering up people to talk about for these 2 months, one of the people I saw, where this young lady did this YouTube video about Miss Hill, and she went into some details with her case against Clarence Thomas that many people didn't know. And I remember when the whole thing was televised, I was like, Lord have mercy. And when you hear the amount of black men, I think I was on the bus at the time, and I was hearing all these older black men, every time they want to take a black man down, they gotta bring a black woman. And so it kind of made me chuckle, because when you heard stuff like that enough times, it's like by the time some of these older black men get done talking to you, you would think that black women were created by Satan in a lab in hell somewhere, and her main goal is to just tear apart black men. Like this man did not have any play or any part in her being brought up. And I remember at the time, she didn't even really want to come forward. She just wanted to live her life. And she got brought forth. She was brought forth by the Democrats. And I remember not being too tickled about Mr. Clarence Thomas getting the seat anyway. And like, you don't support a brother getting it? He wasn't Thurgood Marshall. You cannot just look at the color. Representation is everything, but you also got to think about the political ideology. So Thurgood Marshall had stepped down. He was retiring. And if you don't know, Thurgood Marshall was the first black man to be on the Supreme Court. And I started off like my 28 days of black feminism, talking about the 3 black women that are being considered for the seat that's being retired from now. And so, people, well, at least they putting another black person in there. And I was like, I'm not impressed, because at the time, you have to think about the climate of the country. It was a conservative presidency, I think Bush Sr., as I would like to call him, was in office. George G.W.'s father. And I think there might have even been a conservative Congress at the time. So I'm like, they're not going to pick anybody who has the same, the same politics as Thurgood Marshall. They're going to pick someone who matches them, which is why I was not impressed by it being a black person, because I knew whatever black person they picked was going to be conservative, which is a, discussion for another time. And so I wasn't all that impressed already. And then when the whole Anita Hill thing came out, I really wasn't impressed. But let me go into a deep dive on Miss Hill, because there's more to her than being the woman who had to testify against Clarence Thomas. And I will go into the Clarence Thomas thing too. So Anita Hill was born Anita Faye Hill, July 30th, 1956, so she's a July baby. She is an American lawyer, educator, and author. She is a professor of social policy, law, and women's studies at Brandeis University, and a faculty member of the university's Heller School for Social Policy and Management. She became a national figure in 1991 when she accused U.S. Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas, her supervisor at the United States Department of Education and the Equal Opportunity, I know, of all places, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, of sexual harassment. So, her early years, she was born to a family of farmers in Lowtree, Oklahoma, the youngest of Albert and Irma Hill's 13 children. Ooh, bless you, Irma. Her family came from Arkansas, good state. My grandmother's from Arkansas, where her maternal grandfather, Henry Elliott, and all of her great-grandparents had been born into slavery. Miss Hill was raised in the Baptist faith. She graduated from Morris High School, Oklahoma in 1973, where she was a class valedictorian. After high school, she enrolled at Oklahoma State University and received a bachelor's degree in psychology with honors in 1977. She went to Yale Law School and obtained her Juris Doctorate degree with honors in 1980. Her career as a lawyer, she was admitted to the District of Columbia Bar in 1980 and began her law career as an associate with the Washington, D.C. firm of Wald, Harkrader and Ross. In 1981, she became an attorney advisor to Clarence Thomas, who was then the Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. When Thomas became chairman of the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity, or EEOC, in 1982, Ms. Hill went along to service as assistant, leaving her job and wound up leaving the job in 1983. Her work as a professor. She then became an assistant professor at the Evangelical Christian O.W. Coburn School of Law at Oral Roberts University, where she taught from 1983 to 1986. In 1986, she joined the faculty at the University of Oklahoma College of Law, where she taught commercial law and contracts. In 1989, she became the first tenured African American professor at OU. She left the university in 1996 due to ongoing calls for her resignation that began after her 1992 testimony. So think about being harassed for coming forward. So when I hear people talk about why victims don't come forward, this is one of the reasons why. So when you hear people say, well, the wealthier and well known and how public the guy is, the harder it is for a victim to come forward. Because people have fans, people have supporters, and being able to face the fact that somebody you've been a fan of may have violated someone sexually or harassed someone sexually is a hard pill to swallow. Because people have image consultants, and they probably have put forth such a positive image that you have a hard time believing that the behavior is something that they would do. So in 1998, she became a visiting scholar at Brandeis University, and in 2015, a university professor at the school. So for right now, I'm going to go into some of her other work in advocacy. Because as I said before, there's more to Miss Hill than just the lady who came against Clarence Thomas. So Miss Hill continued to teach at the University of Oklahoma, although she spent 2 years as a visiting professor in California. She resigned her post in October of 1996 and finished her final semester teaching there. In her final semester, she taught a law seminar on civil rights. An endowed chair was created in her name, but was later defunded without ever having been filled. She accepted a position as a visiting scholar at the Institute for the Study of Social Change at University of California, Berkeley, in January 1997, but soon joined the faculty of Brandeis University. So where is Brandeis? Because I've heard of it. So Brandeis is in Waltham, Massachusetts. It is a private research university. I know I clicked on here. So in January 1997, she joined the faculty of Brandeis University, first at the Women's Studies program, and then later moving to the Heller School of Social Policy and Management. In 2011, she also took a counsel position with the Civil Rights and Employment Practice Group of the plaintiff's firm Cohen Milstein. Over the years, Ms. Hill has provided commentary on gender and race relations on national television programs like 60 Minutes, Face the Nation, and Meet the Press. She has also been a speaker on the topic of commercial law as well as race and women's rights. She is also the author of articles that have been published in the New York Times and Newsweek, and has contributed to many scholarly and legal publications in the areas of international commercial law, bankruptcy, and civil rights. In 1995, Ms. Hill co-edited Race, Gender, and Power in America: The Legacy of the Hill-Thomas Hearings with Emma Cole Jordan. I'm going to add that to my library. In 1997, she published her autobiography called Speaking Truth to Power, in which she chronicled her role in the Clarence Thomas confirmation controversy, and wrote that creating a better society had been a motivating force in her life. She contributed the piece, The Nature of the Beast: Sexual Harassment, to the 2000 2003 anthology Sisterhood is Forever, the women's anthology for New Millennium, edited by Robin Morgan. In 2011, Miss Hill published her second book, Reimagining Equality, Stories of Race, Gender, and Finding Home, which focuses on the subprime lending crisis that resulted in the foreclosure of many homes owned by African Americans. She calls for an understanding about the importance of a home and its place in the American dream. On March 26, 2015, the Brandeis Board of Trustees unanimously voted to recognize Ms. Hill with a promotion to private university professor of social policy, law, and women's studies. On December 16, 2017, the Commission on Sexual Harassment and Advancing Equality in the Workplace was formed, and they selected Ms. Hill to lead its charge against sexual harassment in the entertainment industry. The new initiative was spearheaded by co-chair of the Nike Foundation, Maria Eitel, venture capitalist Frida Kaper-Klein, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy, and talent attorney Nina Shaw. The report found not only a saddening prevalence of continued bias, but also stark differences in how varying demographics perceive discrimination and harassment. In September 2018, Ms. Hill wrote an op-ed in the New York Times regarding sexual harassment allegations made by Christine Blasey Ford during the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court nomination. On November 8, 2018, Ms. Hill spoke at the USC Dornsives event, From Social Movement to Social Impact, Putting an End to Sexual Harassment in the Workplace. So in popular culture, she was mentioned in the 1991 on the sitcom Designing Women. They built its episode, The Strange Case of Clarence and Anita, around the hearings on the Clarence Thomas nomination. The following season, the episode The Odyssey, the characters imagine what would happen if new President Bill Clinton nominated Anita Hill to the Supreme Court to sit next to Clarence Thomas. I gotta see that one. Ms. Hill is referenced in the 1992 Sonic Youth song, Youth Against Fascism. Her case also inspired the 1994 Law and Order episode Virtue, about a young lawyer who feels pressure to sleep with her supervisor at her new law firm. She's mentioned in the X-Files episode Musings of a Cigarette-Smoking Man, which aired November 17, 1996. In 1999, Ernest Dickerson directed Strange Justice, a film based on the Anita Hill-Clarence Thomas controversy. Anita Hill is interviewed, unrelated to the Clarence Thomas case, about the film The Tin Drum and the documentary Banned in Oklahoma, included in the Criterion collection of DVD of the film. Ms. Hill's testimony is briefly shown in the 2005 movie North Country about the first class action lawsuit surrounding sexual harassment. Ms. Hill was the subject of the 2013 documentary film Anita by director Frida Lee Mock, which chronicles her experience during the Clarence Thomas scandal. Actor Kerry Washington portrayed Ms. Hill in the 2016 film Confirmation. In 2018, entertainer John Oliver interviewed Hill on his television program Last Week Tonight, during which Hill answered various questions and concerns about workplace sexual harassment in the present day. Ms. Hill has been interviewed by Stephen Colbert on the Late Show twice, once in 2017 and again in 2021. Written works by her. In 1994, she wrote a tribute to Thurgood Marshall, the first African American Supreme Court justice who preceded Clarence Thomas, titled A Tribute to Thurgood Marshall, a Man Who Broke with Tradition on Issues of Race and Gender. She notes his contribution to the principles of equality as a judge and how his work has affected the lives of African American, specifically African American women. On October 20th, 1998, Ms. Hill published the book Speaking Truth to Power, which I mentioned earlier. Throughout much of the book, she gives details on her side of the sexual harassment controversy and her professional relationship with Clarence Thomas. Aside from that, she also provides a glimpse of what her personal life was like all the way from her childhood days growing up in Oklahoma to her position as a law professor. Ms. Hill became a proponent for women's rights and feminism. This can be seen throughout the chapter she wrote in the 2007 book Women in Leadership: The Role of Play and Strategies for Change. She wrote about women judges and why, in her opinion, they play such a large role balancing the judicial system. She argues that since both women and men have different life experiences, ways of thinking, and history, both are needed for a balanced court system. She writes that in order for the best law system to be created in the United States, all people need the ability to be represented. In 2011, Ms. Hill's second book, Reimagining Equality: Stories of Gender, Race, and Finding Home, was published. She discussed the relationship between the home and the American dream. She also exposes the inequalities within gender or race and home ownership. Remember what we talked about with redlining. She argues that inclusive democracy is more important than debates about legal rights. She also uses her own history, a history of other African American women, such as Nanny Helen Burroughs, in order to strengthen her argument for reimagining equality altogether. So I'm going to have to look up Miss Helen Burroughs. On December 28, 2021, Ms. Hill published the book Believing: Our 30-Year Journey to End Gender Violence. Okay, let me see here. Okay. Miss Helen Burroughs, I think, is going to get some mention from me in March. Maybe even the next podcast. Okay. On September. Okay, I got that. So, awards and recognition. She received the American Bar Association's Commission on Women in the Profession's Women of Achievement Award in 1992. In 2005, Ms. Hill was selected as a Fletcher Foundation Fellow. She was awarded the Lewis P. and Evelyn Smith First Amendment Award by the Ford Hall Forum. She also serves on the Board of Trustees, for Southern College in Bennington, Vermont. Her opening statement to the Senate Judiciary Committee in 1991 is listed as number 69 in America's Rhetoric. top 100 speeches of the 20th century, listed by rank. She was inducted into the Oklahoma Women's Hall of Fame in 1993. On January 7th, that's my daughter's birthday, 2017, Miss Hill was inducted as an honorary member of Zeta Phi Beta sorority at their National Executive Board meeting in Dallas, Texas. The following year, Miss Hill was awarded an honorary LL degree by Wesleyan University. The Wing's Washington, D.C. location has a phone booth dedicated to Miss Hill. Minor Planet 6486 Anita Hill, discovered by Eleanor Heflin, is named in her honor. The official naming citation was recognized by the Minor Planet Center. I'm not sure what that is. So let's click on here. So the Minor Planet Center is the official body for observing and reporting on minor planets under the auspices of the International Astronomical Union, founded in 1947. It operates at the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory. Okay, well that answers that question. Okay, so now let me kind of double back up here and discuss her role in the Thomas hearings. I am so sorry to yawn. So as I said earlier, and this is going to confirm this, and all information that I'm providing is coming straight out of Wikipedia. Discuss that amongst yourself, because you know whether or not you feel like Wikipedia is a viable source. Some people have problems with it, and I'm going to discuss that in another post. I'm not going to discuss that in this one. But in 1991, President George Herbert Walker Bush nominated Clarence Thomas, a federal circuit judge, to succeed retiring Associate Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. Senate hearings on his confirmation were initially completed, with Thomas's good character being presented as a primary confirmation qualification for the High Court, because he had only been a judge for slightly more than 1 year. There had been little organized opposition to Mr. Thomas's nomination, and his confirmation seemed assured, until a report of a private interview of Hill by the FBI was leaked to the press. The hearings were then reopened, and Ms. Hill was called to publicly testify. So, Ms. Thomas said on October 11, 1991, in televised hearings, that Thomas had sexually harassed her while he was her supervisor at the Department of Education and the EEOC. So EEOC is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. I know, out of all places, because they're usually the ones who, you know, I just thought it was ironic. So when questioned on why she followed him to the second job after he had already sexually harassed her, she said working in a reputable position within the civil rights field had been her ambition. The position was appealing enough to inhibit her from going back into private practice with her previous firm. She said she had only realized later in her life that the choice had represented poor judgment on her part, but that at that time it appeared that his sexual overtures had ended. So what a lot of people don't realize is that sexual harassment is not always ongoing. You have to be what they call case sensitive. So case sensitive when you're talking about sexual harassment or really any other type of behavior is you have to look at the merits of that individual case. No two cases are alike, no two harassers are alike, and no two victims are alike. So, one of the things that I remember hearing when I was listening to the young lady who revisited the case was that the behavior, I think, had, went away, which is what most victims want. Usually, when you say no, you're not interested, you just want them to let you alone and go on and, you know, not necessarily bother someone else, but just not bother you anymore. So, according to Hill, um, Thomas asked her out socially many times during her 2 years of employment as his assistant. And after she declined his request, he used work situations to discuss sexual subjects. He spoke about such matters as women having sex with animals and films showing group sex or rape scenes. She said, adding that on several occasions he graphically described his own sexual prowess. In other words, well, and the details of his anatomy. I'll let you read between the lines on that one. In other words, I guess his stamp, how long he could go, how good he was, and how big he was. Hill also recounted an instance when Thomas examined a can of Coke on his desk and asked, "Who has put pubic hair on my Coke?" During the hearing, Republican Senator Orrin Hatch implied that Hill was working in tandem with slick lawyers, and I did a hand quote, and interest groups bent on destroying Thomas's chances to join the court. Thomas said that he considered Hill a friend from whom he had been helpful at any turn. Yeah, you have to watch who you accept help from. I'm going to speak on that in a minute. So when accusations of harassment came from her, they were particularly hurtful, I'm sure. And he said, "I lost the belief that if I did my best, all will work out." Four female witnesses reportedly waited in the wings to support Hill's credibility, but they were not called due to what the Los Angeles Times described as a private compromise deal between Republicans and the Senate Judiciary Committee Chair, Democrat Joe Biden. Miss Hill agreed to take a polygraph test, while senators and other authorities noted that polygraph tests cannot be relied upon and are inadmissible in court. In court, Miss Hill's results did support her statements. She was not deceptive. Thomas did not take a polygraph test. He made a vehement, very strong, and complete denial, saying that he was being subjected to a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks by white liberals who were seeking to block a black conservative from taking a seat on the Supreme Court. After extensive debate, the United States Senate confirmed Thomas to the Supreme Court by a vote of 52 to 48, the narrowest margin since the 19th century. Thomas's supporters questioned her credibility, claiming she was delusional or had been spurned, a common thing that men who have allegations of sexual misconduct of any kind, whether it's SA, because I'm gonna post this to YouTube, or the R word, or SH, or sexual harassment. Like to say is that the person accusing them, a common accusation against the accused is that she's seeking retribution because he spurned her advances. Another one is she didn't get the job she wanted, so now she's, a disgruntled employee. Another one that they like to say is that she's delusional. And so they cited the time delay of 10 years between the alleged behavior by um, Thomas and Hill's accusations, and noticed that Hill had followed Thomas to a second job. And as I said before, because I remember during the time of the hearings that she followed him to another job, and I was just kind of like, okay. But as I got older and read more into the case, I realized that she felt like the storm was over and that she was no longer having to deal. In other words, he had started acting right. And, he started behaving himself. He wasn't doing the prior behavior had ceased, so she felt like she was safe. And later had personal contacts with Mr. Thomas, including giving him a ride to an airport. Behavior they said would be explicable if her allegations were true. That whole thing is so much more nuanced than people think. Hill countered that she had come forward because she felt an obligation to share information on the character and actions of a person who was being considered for the Supreme Court. She testified that after leaving the EEOC, she had 2 inconsequential phone conversations with Mr. Thomas and had seen him personally on 2 occasions, once to get a job reference, and the second time when he made a public appearance in Oklahoma where she was teaching. Doubts about the veracity of Ms. Hill's testimony persisted long after Thomas took his seat in the court. They were furthered by American Spectator writer David Brock in his book The Real Anita Hill, where he later recanted the claims though he later recanted the claims he made, described in his book as a character assassination, and later apologized to Ms. Hill. After interviewing a number of women who alleged that Thomas had frequently subjected them to sexually explicit remarks, Wall Street Journal reporters Jane Mayer and Jill Abramson wrote Strange Justice, The Selling of Clarence Thomas, a book which concluded that Thomas lied during his confirmation process. Okay, which I'm guessing practicing a behavior and lying and saying you never did it is a lie. Richard Lacayo, in his 1994 review of the book for Time magazine, remarked, however, their book doesn't quite nail that conclusion. In 2007, Kevin Morita, a co-author of another book on Thomas, remarked that what happened between Thomas and Hill was ultimately unknowable by others, but that it was clear one of them lied, period. Yeah, Clarence Thomas. Okay. Writing in 2007, Neil Lewis of the New York Times remarked that to this day each side in the epic he said she said dispute has its own unmovable believers. In 2007, Thomas published his autobiography, My Grandfather's Son, in which he revisited the controversy, calling Hill his most traitorous adversary, and saying that pro-choice liberals who feared that he would vote to overturn Roe v. Wade if he were seated on the Supreme Court used the scandal against him. He described Hill as touchy and apt to overreact, and her work at the EEOC as mediocre. So mediocre is a favorite buzzword by men who are guilty of sexual harassment. And it's really a way of downplaying your professional accomplishments. Let me say this. I wouldn't care if your work was so mediocre that it tasted like water. No one has a right to subject you to an uncomfortable workplace or create a hostile environment for you to work in. and unwanted sexual advances are hostile. He acknowledged that 3 other former EEOC employees had backed her story, but said they had all left the agency on bad terms. I'm sure they did, and I'm sure he made sure of it. He also wrote that Hill was a left-winger who never expressed any religious sentiments whatsoever. And the only reason why she'd held a job in the Reagan administration was because he gave it to her. Hill denied the accusations in an op-ed, or short for opposite the editorial page. Or opinions in editorial page. So Hill denied these accusations in an op-ed in the New York Times, saying that she would not stand by silently and allow Justice Thomas, in his anger, to reinvent her. In October 2010, Thomas's wife, Virginia, a conservative activist, left a voicemail at Miss Hill's office asking that she would apologize for her testimony. No, the nerve. Miss Hill initially believed the call was a hoax and referred the matter to the Brandeis University campus police, who alerted the FBI. After being informed that the call was indeed from Virginia Thomas, Miss Hill told the media that she did not believe the message was meant to be conciliatory and said, "I testified truthfully about my experience and I stand by that testimony." I hear that. Virginia Thomas responded that the call had been intended as an olive branch. So, the effects of this testimony. Shortly after the Thomas confirmation hearings, President George Herbert Walker Bush dropped his opposition to a bill that gave harassment victims the right to seek federal damage awards, back pay, and reinstatement, and the law was passed by Congress. 1 year later, harassment complaints filed with the EEOC were up 50%, and public opinion has shifted in Ms. Hill's favor. Private companies also started training programs to deter sexual harassment. When journalist Cindy Kennard asked Hill in 1991 if she would testify against Thomas all over again, she answered, "I'm not sure if I could have lived with myself if I had answered those questions any different." The manner in which the Senate Judiciary Committee challenged and dismissed Ms. Hill's accusations of sexual harassment angered female politicians and lawyers. According to D.C. Congressional Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton, another person that may get another notable. Eleanor Holmes Norton. Now, Miss Holmes Norton, and she will get some mention from me. Okay. According to D.C. Congressional Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton, Hill's treatment by the panel was a contributing factor to the large number of women elected to Congress in 1992. Women clearly went to the polls with the notion in mind that you had to have more women in Congress. She said, in their anthology, all the women are white, all the blacks are men, but some of us are brave. Editors Gloria T. Hull Patricia Bell Scott and Barbara Smith described black feminists mobilizing a remarkable national response to the Anita um, yeah, Hill controversy. 1992, a feminist group began a nationwide fundraising campaign and then obtained matching state funds to endow a professionalship at the University of Oklahoma College of Law in honor of Miss Hill. Good. Conservative Oklahoma. Yeah. When I hear all of it, I'm like, too much of it rings true. I believe her. I can't believe that we're in 20. Let me. I'm gonna elaborate on that when I get done reading here. So, conservative Oklahoma state legislators reacted by demanding Hill's resignation from the university and then introducing a bill to prohibit the university from accepting donations from out of state residents, and finally attempted to pass legislation to close down the law school. Woo. Elmer Zinn Million, a local activist, compared Hill to Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassin of President Kennedy. Certain officials, I know, steam is coming out my ears. Certain officials at the university attempted to revoke Miss Hill's tenure. After 5 years of pressure, she resigned. The University of Oklahoma Law School defunded the Anita F. Hill professorship in May of 1999, without the position ever having been filled. April 25th, 2019, the presidential campaign for Joe Biden for the U.S. Presidential election disclosed that he had called Miss Hill to express his regret for what she endured in his role as the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, presiding over the Thomas confirmation hearings. Hill said the call from Biden left her feeling deeply unsatisfied. And on June 13, 2019, she clarified that she did not consider his actions disqualifying and would be open to voting for him. In May 2020, Hill argued that sexual assault allegations against Donald Trump, as well as the sexual assault allegations against Biden, should be investigated and their results made available to the public. September 5th, 2020, it was reported that Hill had vowed to vote for Biden and work with him on gender issues. And we've already gone into her advocacy work and everything like that. So I know this is ran over because I was running my big mouth. So I was steaming a little bit because it's funny to me how different things get revoked. Like I often wonder with some of these people, their reaction to certain things. Like I went to a church where the loyalty of the members was measured on their willingness to overlook sexual misconduct on behalf of the male members. Big red flag. Anytime freedom for a man means overstepping women's sexual boundaries, there's something wrong. There really is. But looking through this, I found a couple of more notables that I want to speak on for the month of March, since it's coming on us really, really soon here. We're at the end of February already. So let me see here. I just found a few more notables here to talk about, as well as more reading. So this Friday, so I'm looking in the Wikipedia page. There's a picture of a pink um a pink button that says "I believe Anita Hill," and I believe her too. Okay, one thing I was going to say was when I was looking at the one young lady's YouTube, and it was one of those makeup, one of those YouTube videos where the woman is putting on makeup and discussing something that is completely unrelated to makeup. So this one, she happened to be putting on makeup and she was discussing the case, and I find it remarkable that because this all happened in the 90s, we are now like 22 years into the new millennium. So we're talking about stuff that had a time frame of at least a good 30 years ago. And I find it ironic that after 30 some years that you have people still saying that it's her against him, which is how a lot of sexual violators like things to be. They're very good at orchestrating things in such a way that it's your word against theirs, so that you come off looking like a liar. Now, you may wonder why that is, and a lot of times it is that way because it allows them to get away with it, and it allows them to look very, very powerful in your eyes. Crimes and trespasses like this are based on an imbalance of power. And so when you're talking about an imbalance of power, you're also talking about someone's ability to have the power to get away with something. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get off here because we're now getting into an hour and 60 minutes. So I have, a couple of more podcasts that I have to record today. So, and plus I have, some out and about business to handle. So I will talk to you guys later. You be blessed. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I enjoy doing 21, 28 days of Black feminism for you guys. I think 28. I always say 28, 29 because some years because of leap year with February. So I enjoy taking these walks down history lane with you guys, just like I like doing music history. I'm starting to see that I'm a bit of a history buff, and I like that. I like looking at older television shows because for me, they're a bit of a timeline. They're a bit of a time capsule because it kind of lets you know where society was during the time many of these films were made. That's why I also like classic films as well. I'm becoming more of a, buff when it comes to that. So this Friday, tomorrow, I will be doing Friday morning live, and there will be a whole lot of announcements that I have to make concerning the channel. First of all, Adams Rib Media Ministry is not going anywhere. It is never going to cease to exist as long as I got breath in my body. One thing when something is your own and you're the one who owns it, you give yourself room to make improvements. You give yourself room to grow. You don't have to worry about being fired from your own stuff. You don't have to worry, you don't have to worry about being fired from your own stuff. You don't have to worry about anyone dismissing you from it. So you guys be blessed. You have a good day, and peace out.